Did anyone notice that the drop kick we got from Suyu in this chapter was very similar to how our favorite bunny waifu that was recently introduced fights as well? I have a very odd suspicion that Suyu might intern underneath her just because of the fighting style similarities, and also because one is a bunny and one is a frog. I want to give a brief shout out to my boy, Kaminari. He truly shined in this chapter. I mean, I know everybody's going to be focusing on our Beast Boy, Gavandon or whatever. I can't pronounce his name, so forgive me on that. But I know everybody's going to be focusing on that. They're going to be focusing on the victory. They're going to be focusing on Shiozaki and her Chuni syndrome and acting like a crazy person. But, I mean, if there's one thing I want to point out that I think not many are really going to acknowledge, is Kaminari and the clutch play he had in this chapter. If it wasn't for him initiating, getting captured quick on his feet, getting purposely captured, going in like that, and distracting everybody to focus in on him, then Shinso wouldn't have been able to initiate like he did against Shiozaki, but then Suyu wouldn't have been able to go in as well. So if it wasn't for Kaminari, this would have went south instantly. Just you know, huge shout out to that man. Like, huge shout out. Like, a lot of aggression since his last match he had with her in the past. And, you know, even Class B. I'm just very proud of Kaminari. And I'm just glad that Horikoshi is truly giving this man some spotlight and showing that he has progressed. He may be on the lowest part of Class A in terms of intelligence, but at the very least, there's one thing we gotta look at when it comes to, you know, UA, is that this is a high-tier school. And so even the low-tier students are gonna be really freaking intelligent compared to normal people. So, just once again, shout out to Kaminari. Glad to see him in the spotlight. Makes me happy. But okay, so let's get into something real quick that was kind of revealed. Let's get into some character personalities. Let's talk about Shiozaki, but let's also talk about our boy Beast Boy, or, you know, Gavandon, or whatever. Like I said, I cannot pronounce his name. But I want to talk about something when it comes to his character. So, I was told on social media today, I don't take any credit for this whatsoever, but I was told on social media today that the name of our Beast Boy in this chapter is that it originates from an actual real event that happened in real life back a long time ago, and you had this, like, man-eating gray wolf that attacked a lot of people. I'll probably link in the description, you can see it for yourself, but his name is based on that. And it's kind of like Horikoshi is subtly nodding, or not actually even being subtle about it. He's basically saying that Beast Boy is pretty much based off of the origin stories of werewolves. That's what you can get from that name. So I guess it's a little bit on the nose. I think everybody's going to be able to kind of understand that. And, you know, I'm just glad to see that, once again, Horikoshi really knows his stuff. You could see that he might have a fascination about werewolves or something, because, I mean, that's definitely something that everybody will put into a series. It does show that he has done a little bit of research with some things to add a name like that to a character of Class B, but also to kind of give a backstory to maybe where his quirk originated from a writer's perspective. It's fascinating. Now, Shiozaki, I've kind of already discussed how she is clearly, like, a Christian. She is someone that's religious. She has this entire, like, design going on to where she has, like, the crown of thorns on it, to, you know, the way she talks, you know, you need a lashing and all that. The way she talks to anyone, she sounds like one of those people from the ancient days that was really, really religious, a part of the Crusades or something. And you can see that Horikoshi is not holding back whatsoever when it comes to her character theme. I mean, even in this chapter with her whole attacks to how she was talking to Beast Boy, saying, or how Shiozaki was talking to Beast Boy, it's like, Beast of Apocalypse. I'm like, whoa, like, I know what that is. Like, I know exactly what that is. So to kind of get some clarification of what that was, that title that was given to him, the Beast of the Apocalypse is pretty much the beast in Revelations. The book of Revelations in the Bible, that's what that name originates from. So it once again goes along with Shiozaki's theme of how, like you can see, she's obviously Christian, and she really has that theme going really well for her, and I love that. She's a very unique character. She reminds me a lot of Tokoyami, actually, because Tokoyami, he's a Chunin as well. He is someone that's like darkness, darkness and all that. I live in the darkness. I was born and molded by the darkness. That's pretty much how Tokoyami is. And seeing how she acts, I wonder how Tokoyami and Shiozaki would interact, because you have one that's kind of like darkness, and you have another one that's Christian related, and you're like, I wonder how these two would react. Like, would they have a casual conversation? Would they get very chuny going on? I'm very curious about that, just because of Shiozaki's character and how she has kind of been reintroduced into the story. Class A wins, which makes sense, because Shinso, he needed to win to make him look good. I mean, Horikoshi would not introduce his character back into the story just to have him take a big fat L. That wouldn't make sense, especially after all the build-up he's gotten in these past couple chapters. The only way he could take a big L is if it made sense for his character progression, which I would be down for, but with all the stuff we've already seen, it just didn't seem like that was actually going to be the case. Even though he isn't as skilled as everyone from Class B or Class A, it still would be kind of messed up to just have him take an L in his first match, and many would assume that he's not going to win against Izuku, so he's going to take an L there. If he's going to take an L, he's going to take an L against Izuku, which I've already talked about that. I do believe that he could still potentially win against Izuku if Izuku wants to tap in and figure out how, One For All actually works, and he might purposely allow himself to get brain controlled or whatever. I mean, who knows? I mean, he might allow that. Shinso could still potentially win, but that's for a different time, because there's many other fights that we got to see before we even get into that, because, I mean, if we're going by the pacing of, this little match we have the first round, then it's going to be months until we see the Izuku versus Shinso stuff, because if we have, 3 chapters per, little fight, 2 to 3 chapters, then yeah, that's calculating about, 9-10 plus chapters of content just to probably get to the Izuku stuff. So, and granted, probably the Izuku stuff with Shinso might be a little bit longer than what we just got with this first round. That could be around 5, maybe 6 chapters. So, yeah, it's gonna be a bit probably till we see that, which I am not complaining. Like I've said since the very beginning, I'm all for having characters getting extra development and progression, and, seeing them have the spotlight besides our main character, Izuku. It's always one of my favorite things to see in a story. But it will be a while. If it really does follow the pacing we got from this first round, then it's going to be months, which, yeah, it's going to suck for some that want to see that rematch and get probably a little bit more information of One For All and kind of how it works. Is it really mutating? Is there more purpose to it? Is it an Avatar-like state? Who really knows? But okay, shelving that for a second, let's talk about what exactly happened. How did Class B lose to Class A? One of the big deciding factors that played a role in Class B losing was the lack of communication. The failing of communication. All communication pretty much hit an all-time low towards the end of this chapter. And the reason for it was thanks to Shinso. Shinso's entire presence was what really affected Class B. And I honestly did not really even think about that. It reminds me a lot of how games are done, actually, which I will get into. But what happened is that Shinso, as we know, he has a brainwashing quirk. He can brainwash anyone that responds to him. He can manipulate his voice, but if they respond to him, he controls them, and, we know the rest. We also know his weaknesses. But he does have a strong quirk. It does have some flaws, but it's a strong quirk. And if he can get the jump on someone, it makes him even more effective. But if someone knows about his quirk, then obviously it's not going to be as effective. He's not going to be able to brainwash someone that easily, because the villains or whoever he's up against are going to be on their toes next time. And that is what Class B was doing. They were on their toes, and they were very weary of Shinso's quirk, which in a way, they were too weary. Which, this goes into the main theme of what this chapter wanted to show us, is that Shinso may be at a disadvantage, if his quirk is discovered, but it also is a big advantage, too, for him. Because as long as if people knows he's there and villains are aware of his ability, then that puts pressure for them. They're not able to properly communicate with each other. For instance, let's say Shinso takes over someone, like brainwash them in a mid-fight, okay? And then he breaks out, like some villain or whatever, breaks out of that control, and then, he has a couple people behind him. Obviously, because of that, they'll be very quick to not respond to any random voice that comes from behind him, to the side, or whatever. They won't just instantly respond to someone, which in turn could break down communication between them, the villains working together, and so that's the presence that Shinso has. If the villains see it, it doesn't mean that all hope is lost, and that Shinso is useless. He might not be able to effectively use his quirk, he might not even be able to probably properly fight, but at the very least, him being there is still very supportive. He's the support character that sits in the back, and as long as he's there, people are worried, on guard, worrying about who they need to respond to or when they're talking, because then they could be brainwashed. So it's like a game. It honestly reminds me a lot of how a video game is done, which I was just earlier talking about. Like, let's take a MOBA for a second. Let's think about, League of Legends or, Smite that I play on Xbox. When it comes to those games, certain characters within that game, if you, let's say, select a god or a champion, and the god or champion has an ability that has like a passive, or this ability that maybe could execute you at any point in the map, okay? Like maybe they can go to, let's say, the left or right lane from middle lane out of nowhere and just end you in a second because that's like their special ability or something. That is pretty much what happened with Shinso, is that you always have this in the back of your mind, this presence, like, I need to watch out for that. I need to watch out for this insta-kill move, and I need to be on my guard to be able to protect myself when it happens, and that's what happened. Shinso's presence caused their downfall. So it's cool stuff. But there is an obvious flaw that was done, which could work around that issue for villains. See, what happened to Class B in this chapter was obviously inexperience. It was their lack of experience that resulted in the L they took. And the reason why I say that is because they may have had a lot more training, studies, because they've not been interrupted as much as Class A. But the lack of experience definitely showed towards the end there, because they may have been good with the first part of the plan, the initiation, to get rid of Class A and capture them. But once that happened and the plan needed to shift and change, that's when they started to hit the ground. See, they weren't able to adapt properly to the situation, because that's what happens on the field with any hero, is that obviously not everything is going to go according to plan. You're going to have this plan set up to initiate, go in, take down the villains, but something's going to go haywire. We could take an example from the Overhaul arc. Think about the Overhaul arc for a second, and that how much time it took to set up the invasion to get inside of Overhaul's hideout, to get to the bottom layers, to finally capture the man and get Eri back. It was not all according to plan. There was a lot of things that happened that they did not expect, which in turn resulted in them having to change the battle plan, just shift their directions of what they need to do. And that's where Class B failed at, is that they were not able to adapt to the situation, and they lost. See, if Beast Boy would have looked at Ren and looked at his mouth, he even pointed it out in this chapter, everything would have been okay. If he would have turned around and not doubted himself, or just took a moment to think, he could have looked at Ren's face, noticed he's speaking to him, and he'd be like, okay, the voice coming from him, obviously, everything's okay. I'll be fine then, and, I could straight up, I can listen to him and follow his battle plans. That's a weakness. If you can see your ally's face and when they're talking, then you're fine. You can completely negate Shinso's quirk. You don't have to worry about that pressure behind you. But then, as well, if you have some form of headphones from an individual, for instance, like, okay, let's say you have a headphone from your fellow ally and you heard it come through the headpiece, then obviously you would be able to communicate properly and you'll be able to navigate and work around Shinso's quirk as well. So there is some weaknesses to Shinso still, but most of the time people are still gonna, succumb to that pressure, that background pressure of his presence being there. But a truly smart villain won't let that get to them. For instance, someone like All For One, I highly doubt Shinso would probably be as effective. He has probably encountered people that has brainwashing. He probably might even have counters to it, for all we know. But I don't think someone that's truly intelligent will succumb to something like that. Like someone like Shigaraki that is slowly gaining experience as a villain head honcho, I don't think the time we get to the end of this series that he's probably ever going to fall for something like that. It's not going to be that easy whatsoever, unless Shinso really improves upon his quirk and does something absolutely crazy. So, let's see here. Next thing to really talk about. Let's talk about Tsuyu for a second. Tsuyu surprised me. She was someone that I always knew was kind of strong, but we never really got to see it a lot. This was the first true time we've seen in My Hero Academia where Tsuyu's really taken up a really good leadership role. She's taken a role of actually supporting the team and being an all-around good fighter. I mean, she was a good team leader, coming up with strategies and what they need to do, masking their scent for scouting duties, being able to go in and fight and, like, try to drop kick, you know, Ren and all that. I mean, there was a lot of things that Tsuyu did in this, you know, round 1 fight with Class A and B that just really shows that Tsuyu is, incredibly gifted, but I don't think it's because of her quirk is why she's so good. I don't think it's because has frog-like traits to why she's able to do what she does. It's because of all the training, all the experience she has gained throughout the series. It's very similar to how a lot of other characters like Togata, how he has a quirk that is strong on paper. When you look at his quirk, Togata being able to, like, phase through every surface, well, he can't do it anymore, obviously, because his quirk's gone, but, I mean, when he could, I mean, phasing through any surface, that's pretty OP. That's a pretty strong freaking quirk, especially if anything could phase through you. So when you look at that, you're like, that man broken. But when you find out the details of his quirk and how much training he had to do to get to that point, you're like, holy crap, like, okay, it's not because of his quirk, it's just because the man is what made the quirk. And that's what I think about Tsuyu. Tsuyu, the reason why she was so effective in this fight was not because of her quirk, but because she has stretched her quirk to the absolute limits and used its capabilities to be able to use it at its maximum utility. I'm very impressed by her skill. I'm very impressed by what she was able to do, and I think many can agree with me that Tsuyu is definitely someone that I need to look a little bit differently at going forward in terms of a fighter. She's definitely not a low-tier fighter by any means. And that's not even counting the savageness of her tongue and how strong it is. Like, okay, think about it like this. I know we're all talking about the memes and stuff from the last, you know, chapter with the poor boy waking up to a new fetish or whatever, but getting that out of the way, Tsuyu was also able to pick up Ren, this, you know, dude, and throw him at such a velocity to knock out Beast Boy. That's impressive. That's very impressive to do something like that. So she's not weak either. So it's not just leg strength, being able to jump very fast, but the tongue strength as well, to be able to just throw someone like that, just shows that you should not underestimate her at all. So I need more Tsuyu. I definitely want more Tsuyu going forward, because definitely showed that she is not weak. Okay, so, let's see, other things to really talk about. I think I pretty much have covered everything besides the miscellaneous. I guess I could talk about Shinso and how he used a technique from Aizawa, which is, once again, a nod to how Aizawa taught him, which I appreciate that, because Aizawa's been a really good father figure to Eri, or he's trying to be, and it seems like he's kind of being like a father figure to, you know, Shinso as well. So I'm really liking that. I'm really liking how Aizawa's teachings are really starting to spread to the next generation, and how Shinso is using techniques pretty much after Eraserhead's name, like Eraserhead. He actually put that name onto his technique. Pretty cool stuff. Now, another thing to mention is Ren as well. So Ren has these skills, which he didn't really get a lot of time to shine in this chapter, which I think is the biggest disappointment, but we did get enough about his character to know that he is not naive and he's not dumb. He was able to realize the biggest flaw that Class B had in this chapter. He realized they lacked communication, and that was their downfall. He was even able to figure out Kaminari, how they were able to track them. For instance, the thing being on Beast Boy. So yeah, Ren is not dumb. He's able to process information very quickly, and his quirk is pretty interesting at close range and far range. He's a shield and a sword. So I want more Ren as well in the future. Definitely not a throwaway character. I want to see more of him. So anyways, with that, I think I want to end this video here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whenever I upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.